everybody, my name's Silas Gamer, and welcome to another Top 5er Cuphead. Today, instead of doing the top 5 hardest bosses, we are going to be tracking down the top 5 easiest bosses. So, just warning you, there are no spoilers, so you can watch this without any spoilers, and if you don't agree with me, just say in the comments what you think the easiest bosses are. Anyways, without further ado, let's begin. At number 5, we have Jimmy the Great. So Jimmy is pretty easy. For his first phase, he can do one of 3 things. He can do jewels, cats, or swords. I prefer swords over the other 2. Cats are fine. Just try not to get jewelry. It's not that bad to dodge, but it is in an airplane, so it's a bit hard to dodge. So after you get that, you go into a section where it's like spirals, except for one of them will be his head that you have to shoot because you can't avoid it otherwise, and it'll open up his face so you can get through it, and then you have to do that over and over again, and there'll be little saw blades that you have to avoid, but it's probably the easiest phase. So next, there is the cheesy phase, and I call it this for one reason. It's where Jimmy has a sarcophagus and this weird like red face, and like just goes back and forth, up and down, and shoots at eyeballs and ghosts come. Switch to the bomb attack and just go up to the top. Sometimes you'll have to avoid the eyes, but one hits the ghost, and it's very, very easy to get Jimmy down to 0 health for that phase. So anyways, on to phase number 4. There are a lot of phases. So he has a great idea and brings in a puppet of Cuphead. And it does the normal shooting Cuphead things. And some of them can be parried, but also his hat comes and it tries to chase you. And occasionally it'll stop and shoot out bullets, so try and avoid that. But this is probably the hardest phase of the fight, and it's not that bad. So, on to phase 5. So for this final phase, Jimmy grows humongous. And he has 3 pyramids, and they're in 3D. So what you have to do is you have to avoid the pyramid's lasers and this little eye beam that comes after you. And it's all in such a small space that it would be a really hard boss battle if you didn't have so low health for that final phase, because it's just really easy. Just switch to bombs, shoot, and occasionally dodge, and you basically have yourself the win. So anyways, let's move on to number 4. At number 4, we have Sally's stage play. So she just barely got number 4 because she's really easy. So what you have to do for her fight, it's pretty easy. So for the first one, you basically just, also before you get into the battle, just use Smoke Dash. It makes the battle 100 times easier. This would actually be one of the hardest boss battles in the game without it. So what you have to do is you have to avoid her coming, she jumps and comes on top of you, and she also does a little smoochy animation, and then it a heart comes. Parry that, because it's probably one of the only parries you'll get. Then she can also I think that's about it she can do. Oh yeah, she can also disappear and spawn at the top of the screen. So avoid those 3 attacks, and then you move on to the next phase. The next phase is literally the same thing, except for with a few new attacks. So for one, there are a bunch of babies that are throwing a bunch of bottles at you during your battle. So avoid those at all costs. They are probably the hardest projectile of this whole battle. And so you also, again, Smoke Dash, easy. And Sally has her same 3 attacks, but she has an extra one where toy mouse cars come down, and you actually have to jump for once. So then after that, she dies, and she turns into a little stage set piece, and she has 3 or 4-ish attacks. Actually, no, just 3. So the 3 are Lightning, Wave, and Meteor. For Meteor, you're going to want to break the Meteor, so then a parryable star will come out. Then there's the Lightning, so just literally don't jump, and you'll be done with it in no time. And also then there's the Wave. You would have to be very strategic with the Wave, because you'd have to get the pink star from the Meteor and save it so you can parry over it. But if you just have Smoke Dash, just Smoke Dash through it. And so once you defeat her, she has her final phase where she's up on the top, and this might be hard. Just use while it might be hard to aim at her, just choose chaser for this last phase, and it'll be done soon. All you have to do is jump every now and again to avoid the parasol and avoid the flowers, and you'll basically be done. And the problem I have with this battle is that, again, at her last phase, like Jimmy, she just has so low health. And honestly, it's just such an easy battle, and I'm surprised because this is one of the last battles you'll do in the game. So that's number 4. Let's move on to number 3. At number 3, we have Cagney Carnation. So Cagney is one of the first bosses you face. He's actually like the last boss of the World 1. So he only has a few attacks. So his first attack for phase 1/2/3 is probably his head attack, where like his head like just pops out and like goes across the screen. So for that one, all you have to do is go to the side that his head is not going on, which is pretty easy. He'll move his head to where he's doing it. So it's pretty easy to avoid. Then he has his spamming attack, and if you've watched my videos, you'll know that it's very, very hard to avoid. You have to like move around, avoid the like, I don't even know what they are. They're like flower pellets? I don't know. But some of them can be parryable. So parry them, and they'll spawn like little things that chase after you. And this, if you don't parry the pink one, then it goes up top, then like spawns a bunch of pink things. It's really weird. But if you get that phase down, then he goes on to technically phase 3, even though it's not really that different. Well, he'll gain his final attack for that type of phase. So he'll gain this attack where he can either make like nuts, I'm assuming they are, or they can make a boomerang. I'm not sure what it actually is, but it reminds me of a boomerang because it comes back. The boomerang's easy. Just jump to where it will. Just jump on the floating platforms and then jump over, and then it'll go to the bottom. So make sure not to go to the bottom. And the acorns, just simply go to the bottom and let them all fire, and don't get scared of them. And then just jump up top once they've all fired at you, because it'll be really easy to avoid them. Then after that, for the finale, Cagney comes out and sprouts to the ground. And after he does that, it's very, very hard to avoid them, because after he like his vines comes down, like he'll like sometimes hit 2 platforms, sometimes 1, and you'll have to avoid those. And he also does like these little things that look like saws to me, that can sometimes be parryable. So yeah, this boss fight's pretty easy because it's not really that hard to avoid everything. Everything looks very complicated, but it's not that complicated. And there are another thing that has a saving grace for is that there are just way too many parry opportunities. You can get so many, it's like not even funny. So anyways, that was Cagney Carnation for number 3. Let's see who number 2 is. Number 2, the Root Pack. So for number 2, I have the Root Pack, as you just heard. So you might be surprised, considering it is the first boss you'll have to fight. Of course, if you actually fight them for your first boss, which is somewhat optional, I guess. It's not that optional, but you'll most likely fight them first. So for the starting boss, I'd say they're a pretty good starting boss. But then again, starting boss, probably one of the easiest. So what they do is first comes out a potato, and the potato, wait, sorry about that, guys. I had to go do something really quickly. So anyways, as I was saying, a potato comes out, and what it does is it shoots some dirt balls at you, and then at the last one, you should parry it because it's a snake, or like worm, I think. And you parry it because there are only 2 opportunities to parry in this battle, and the second one you really don't want to do. It's really hard to get. So anyways, after you shoot him, that's the first pattern, the only pattern he'll do. So then after you do that, you move on to an onion, which is the second parry opportunity, because it gets like tears at the top and rains down tears. Now, some of them will be pink, but I wouldn't do it because then you'll parry up and you'll probably just hit another tear. So then that's its pattern. And then after you defeat the onion, then you go on to the carrot, which is probably the hardest of the bunch. He first summons a little carrot army. So they come down, Then after that, he'll do like a little beam, like for a third eye. Probably pun, carrots. They, give you eyesight. Anyways, he'll just keep doing that back and forth and back and forth, and it can be somewhat hard to do, but it's honestly a pretty easy boss fight for like the first one. Of course, it's the first one. Again, easy. But before we move on to number 1, here are some honorable mentions. At the first honorable mention, we have Baroness von Bonbon. Her boss fight is somewhat hard, I guess. I mean, sure, they have the aspect of surprise. She almost made it to number 5, but just isn't too hard, I guess. I maybe like 1 or 2 shot at her on my attempts on my actual gameplay, but in reality, she's just super easy in general, and all of her mini boss fights, while some of them can be hard, if you get lucky, you can just one-shot her. For honorable mention 2, we have Hildeberg, which is going to be the only shmup that will be an honorable mention. So, it's her fight, pretty easy. Just avoid the pellets and basically just do some stuff. There is a little glitch you can abuse for like one of her phases. It's not that hard. Moon phase, meh. Once you get a hang of it, all of her attack patterns are just so predictable. And for our final honorable mention, we have everyone's favorite captain, Captain Brinybeard. So honestly, this fight would be a really, really hard one if charge wasn't a thing. Charge, you can just basically wreck through all of his phases, which aren't really that hard. But then for the ship phase, just look back with roundabout and you'll be done in no time. And anyways, for our final easy fight, our number 1 pick, Goopy Legrande. So, Goopy Legrande, he's really, really, really easy. Again, he's like the second boss you'll probably fight, so it makes sense. So, all he does for his first 2 phases are jump up and down and up and down and back and forth and back and forth and up and down and up and down and back and forth. And it's not really that different from that. So just equip Smoke Dash for this, and that phase will be easy. And of course, there's in phase 1, he pops his head out at you. Just duck for that. And the same thing, except for he punches you when he grows bigger in phase 2. And whenever he grows bigger, the things are, his bounces are a bit harder to dodge, but they're not really that hard to dodge. And whenever he punches you, just duck again. And in his final phase, not really harder. All he does is just try and slam at you, and just use Chaser, same as like the Sally stage play final fight thing. Just equip Chaser, yeah, that's the name of it, if you want to just do it easily. So that is my number 1 pick. And again, but that's just my crummy opinions. So you tell me who you think the easiest boss fights are in the comments below. And don't forget to like the video and share it. And just subscribe and maybe turn on notifications. That'd be pretty nice. And leave a comment down below. And if you do all that I really appreciate it. But anyways, those are my opinions. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye!